Sorry, it's just me, Mary Beth. Kurt is at a will signing with a potential.
Yeah, that's where we got into.
Oh, is that how you got on will sign? Talking about dying.
Yeah.
Dying, exactly. And who
Well, you got to plan for that stuff, especially if you own investment property. Someone's got to get it.
So where are you today? Are you in your mom's living room?
I am in the living room. I just couldn't stay upstairs anymore, so I have a dog in my lap, and that's how we're rolling.
A dog in your lap, a baby in your belly, and a cup of Java in your hands.
Life's
This
good.
is how we build wealth, right?
Well, that's actually a good way to start today's conversation, since we are doing our Wealth Building Fridays, MREI Fridays. So good morning, everyone that's watching on Facebook. It is myself, Matt Billheimer, Mary Beth, and Megan today. We're without Kurt, but we're going to give you a ton of great information today. And I really wanted to start. Mary Beth and I were on a call this morning, we were both on a call with Mark King, who does a wealth building call. Hey, Dana.
Ooh,
I wasn't sure if you're muted. So
you guys have the yellows going.
But I was starting the call because Mary Beth and I were on a call this morning with Mark King, and Dana, you might have been on the call too. A couple things really stood out to me on that call. Number one, he said that profit share is really the easiest way to grow your passive income. And that was number one. And with that, he was saying we really should be encouraging every single agent to get their real estate license, because there's so many opportunities in the real estate industry. And we'll talk about some of that today, through the investment side. But from the profit share side, I just wanted to touch on something, because I think it's really important for agents, all agents, Keller Williams, any brand, but we're talking today about profit share in our world. And one of the things that he outlined, which I thought was very simple to just explain, is if you have 15 agents, experienced agents in your first level downline, if you then look 6 years out, so he did 15 plus 6 equals 60,000, which was if you have 15 experienced agents in your first level, 6 years from now, you should be expecting $60,000 in passive income from profit share, just from that first level. And then those people are going to be obviously growing their downlines as well. But I just wanted to kind of start off there, because I think sometimes we're always looking at other avenues for passive income, and yet we're not focusing on one that's really right in our backyard, which is the profit share path.
And if I could add to that, is that's a realistic number in expectation. If 15 people, essentially what you're saying is that each capper, each productive agent, and maybe they're not all cappers, but each productive agent in your downline, because of their participation, as well as the people that have been influenced by them, would yield you about $4,000 a year per first level. Mm-hmm. And so some people are, a lot of people are like, well, can you calculate profit share? About what percentage? And it's like, it's based on profit. It is based on profit. It's also potential that agent has to contribute towards, and the company dollar amount. Some market centers in Texas are a cap of 18,000, whereas, we know Manhattan, at 50, 60.
The cap, yeah, something like that.
Yeah, I think it's somewhere around there. I know Hoboken brought theirs down, but so that factors into how much one agent would be, worth in the profit share system. So to say about $4,000 at first level is pretty fair.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that.
Over time, and remember that it's Dana Adele used to always say, time on task over time will yield you results. So it's the same thing. He's talking about 6 years. You'll see that you can expect that result.
And a couple things, just while we're on this topic, it's not that you even have to do all the work. It's really just referring people to your team leaders. Hey, Kurt.
Hey.
All right, sorry. I figured out how to unmute it.
You made it.
Go ahead, Matt.
Yeah. No, so I was just saying, so a couple things you can do is just anybody that you're in contact with, refer them, have them watch some of these classes. We do a career hour every other week. And especially now, one thing that you can even do yourself is, with everything being so virtual with Zoom, I mean, you can create your own little career hour and invite people from all over the state, because you can do everything so online. It's easy to refer them, get them into a training, and then refer them out to the team leader that's closest to them, whether they're in South Jersey, Central Jersey, North Jersey.
Yeah, you just gave me a great idea.
Yeah.
We have a Africa family that has been really trying to become a KW, and I haven't thought about them in a while until you just said that. Like, I'm going beyond state, and I'm going, in my head, I'm going in the whole world. And then I'm thinking, oh, well, now is a time where I could potentially reach out to Mr. Adeli and offer him some Zoom opportunities to even pull him back into the KW family opportunity.
No, and I think that's great. So, I don't want to go on too much on that, but I just wanted to bring up, I was on the call with Mark King this morning, and I thought, so many people don't focus on profit share, and that's something that we have. It's right in our backyard, and so it's an opportunity for everybody to really plug in.
It's so true. I love, I'm sorry, if I may jump in, to your point, Matt and Mary Beth, I feel like bloom where you're planted.
Yep.
Right? So if you're going to bloom where you're planted, I mean, if you think of residual income, this is an investment, opportunity call, right? So how much money on a 2% return would you have to have in the bank liquid to receive $60,000 a year in residual income? I just did the second grade math, and that's $3 million sitting in order at 2% interest only to receive that $5,000 a month, $60,000 a year. I mean, I don't know about anyone on this call, but I can't say I can tap $3 million liquid,
right?
Right? So it's blooming where you're planted, and just putting a little focus on it. Linda McKissick, just to put a bow on it, Linda McKissick used to teach us to do wealth building Wednesdays. And you would call the agent on the other side, your co-broker friends who were nice and kind, right, and like-minded, who you wouldn't mind working alongside. And it was just time on task over time, and pouring into them and inviting them to talk to Mary Beth.
Meanwhile, Dana, 2% return on $3 million liquid, you would be doing a lot of injustice to yourself by not putting it in somewhere else.
Of course.
Seriously.
I was gonna say that, like, who's leaving that liquid sitting there?
Well,
so
listen,
it's not even an opportunity.
If you have that liquid, call me, because we can do something.
I know.
Gosh, I couldn't keep $3 in my pocket, let alone $3 million.
Yeah.
But here's the thing.
Kurt and Megan, we just talked about their business model. I believe you're starting to incorporate that, right?
Yeah,
Make part of your business plan.
Yeah, it's just like, Mary Beth, you and I were talking before. It's like you were like, how do I find time to do this? You just make the time. And so we're actually adding that in. Kurt is the one who handles most of the other agents. He just is really good at sweet talking them. So he now spends time every week reaching out to other agents who are proven talent. One, because we're trying to recruit people for our actual team, because we need a solid, like, full-time buyer's agent, by the end of the year. And then also for downline, like, it's dual purpose there. So that we just are setting aside that time. And I think that's the important thing for people to realize when you're trying to grow wealth, downline, anything, just set aside the time and just be intentional about it. And it's crazy what will happen.
Well, what's the bold law that goes along with that? What you focus on expands.
Mm-hmm.
And it so does. So I actually have been plugging away, and I think that this is the first group that's going to hear this. Linda McKissick is going to get on a call with us.
Wow.
I've been dying for her to come to us, and usually we could catch her on her way into Jersey for other things. But she just said, I must have missed this. When can I get on a call? So we are going to schedule that in July, and I'm so excited because I don't want that just to be something for right here. We should be inspiring everybody, because to actually put a bow on it, $1.4 million last year is what they made in passive profit share.
Mm-hmm.
So I want a piece of that. But to the call this morning that Mark King was doing, Matt, and actually along with this he was talking about like identifying 100 properties to actually look at 10, to actually get it down to 3, to then find that 1. And the thing was, if you do that often enough, which is kind of what I'm running into now. It's just I'm not ready to pull the trigger because the refi is closing hopefully Monday. So I don't want to even tease myself because I want to be able to like look at a property, put the offer on, be confident, go forward. Finding more deals than you can actually handle yourself. So to Matt's point is everybody should have the real estate license for the purpose of finding great deals for themselves. And then if you're so good at it, you could systemize it and turn it into an actual business. Well, then you turn it into a business. But just by doing the activity, you're going to find more deals than you can actually purchase. So then you maybe even start thinking creatively, like, do I begin a real estate REIT? Do I offer people an opportunity to place their money with me and we'll buy the buildings? Woo! I don't know. I'm crazy right now.
Like I've been threatening to do this for 100 years. The REIT, specifically.
No, I don't know. It just came out.
Yeah.
Threatening to do it. I like that wording.
Like a threat, But that's the thing, I love how Ben Kinney says, don't say you don't have time for something. Back to Megan's point is just say it's not a priority to you.
Yeah.
So shame on me. It's just REITs have not been a priority to me specifically, right? It's more micro in the household, in the family, for the family. But the reality is I adore a lot of people who have families who may not have the head to be a direct investor, may enjoy something like equity in a REIT.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think that's interesting, just to what you were saying, we always read that everybody has 24 hours in a day. We all have the same amount of time to do the things we want to do. It's just where our priorities are. And ultimately, what are we putting our time on task? What are we focusing our energy on? Because everybody was affected by COVID. Everybody was affected by, so, sometimes when we hear challenges or excuses, everybody was dealt the same card in that regard. It's where we focused on, what we put our time towards, that we ultimately, and so really to Dana's point, it's just, what are we prioritizing? I know Mary Beth, you were saying you started to show a couple properties this week. Like you were doing things that you were getting back into, the agent hat, and that you kind of were then looking at more properties for yourself. And you were then, you realized how much you love doing that.
Guys, oops, I went out and looked at a house yesterday.
I didn't mean to blow up the spot.
It looked like your house. It was like, I think I am the boobs. I think I'm just becoming them. No, but Godfrey and I were happy we went to go see that house. We were looking for a house for ourselves. And Dana has a neighbor that's listing too. So like all this stuff is happening, but we went out and looked, and Godfrey's like, thank God we went and looked, because now I know, like, I don't want that one. It was just a little too much work for us for where we're at right now. If we go ahead and move, like, we just like a little less work. However, I go, yeah, but babe, look at the investment opportunity on this one. I mean, ugly girl, amazing neighborhood, totally dated. I mean, old shag rug, like the shag was this long and flopping over like a dog, kind of like, okay. But the architecture was so amazing and the bones were so good. But I'm like, the neighbor had to be 1 million and this is offered at 599. 1 million, 1.2. So you'd be buying the neighborhood. It's just, do we really want to do that right now? I don't know. We're not. I don't have a head for it right this second.
It's
not a priority.
Right now. Oh goodness.
Yes, Dana.
I had something I wanted to tell you guys, so talk about something and I'm gonna figure it out.
I was just thinking, Megan and Kurt, I know we talked a little bit last week of the day that you guys have a new coach who's really kind of whipping you into shape a little bit, just getting, a different perspective from your old coach. Has your coach laid out different goals for you? Or are you still maintaining the goals that you had in terms of the end of 2020, or what's going on in that world? What is your new coach encouraging you to do in terms of wealth building, investing, and all of that?
She's funny. She's definitely beating us up. And one of the things which we've talked about on this call, but one of the things when we were talking about the flips, she's like, so are you working that? Is that your full-time job? Because flips are a time intensive thing. And I think this is a trap a lot of people get into, where you start thinking about, you know, uh, people have a hard time shifting that gear. They're always in it. We see it all the time in real estate agents with their teams, and they're like, "Oh, I know I'm out of model. I know I got a lot of stuff that I need to change, but they
The
comfort,
now money.
yeah, comfort precedes. I mean, I would say everybody with a team in our market center probably could take a hard look at their business and be like, we know we're not doing this right, and we know we're not doing this right. And our coach is highlighting all of that for us, like a good coach should. But she's also, the flip part of it is a huge component. It's like, how do you leverage that right? Do you have the time? I think we have a better answer than a lot of people doing flips, because it isn't our full-time job. We've partnered with somebody who allows it to be. It's kind of their full-time job, and we all bring different things to the table. But it makes you think. It makes you think, like, how much time are we really? What's actually valuable? How much?
Forever.
Yeah, how much of what we're doing is really valuable? And in any sort of investing, you got to think, how are we investing our time? You invest time and you invest money. So if we're talking about investment, what's the ROI on our time? And it's very easy to say that. We say that all the time. It's very Kellerese, what's the ROI on our time? But seriously, what is it?
Yeah.
So I've been in the MREA course for this week and now next week, MREA models, and you guys are in mastery, so you get that once a year for free. I believe the next one is in October. And, it was really going, I know these numbers, right? But it was just reiterating some business models and where the expenses go and what percentage we should be paying listing specialists and buyer specialists. And, listing specialists, a base salary and 10%. Go take listings all day long, 15 to 20 a month, and let my admin team carry it out. At what point are some of the rainmakers in this industry going to get to that point to say, I want it to run like a business? I think they're still holding on to I'm not ready to let go. Because if they were truly looking at it as a business, they'd fall right in line with those percentages, because they'd realize it's eating away at them big time. Buyer's agents, 40%, 45%. We have some that are, at 60, 70%. That is really eating away from the profitability of the business, which, okay, you're not saying like, I don't want my rainmakers to make more money. It's, well, if the rainmakers are coming from scarcity, how much value are they going to add back into the team? Because they don't got it. They just don't have it. So, are you coming from an abundant mindset where go to the model and it will work? But with that being said, I was thinking about you saying I was showing homes. Yes, going back into the agent shoes again was real interesting this week. And I'm not saying it's easy in any way. I enjoyed it again. Yet I recognize the skill set of the agent, the ability to talk about a neighborhood, talk about what's happening, understand what taxes, what affects the prices. All of that education that we have from going out and seeing properties and being in deals, like, that's what makes a great agent. And the market is it's there to study. So this is, I guess, the plea to the agents who feel like they're struggling or whatnot. Just go see some properties, go show some properties, go take a client out. Like, it doesn't have to be perfect. Go see 10 and preview them all. You'll start to learn a neighborhood. You'll have things to talk about. I just wanted to encourage people, because it's such an amazing business to get into, to change your life. And I think through education, some of the people in my circle were like, I don't understand this about the process. I don't understand about conventional versus FHA. And I'm trying to explain, and I thought, I just got to do a seminar. Because if we could educate our own backyard, we'll be creating buyers, sellers, investors, people who want to buy, investment into the real estate REITs. I mean, through education, I think, is how, like, this group especially is going to take it to our next level.
Yeah, that's a great point. I was delighted to be involved with a panel on the bold pivot shift with Kimberman Kitty and Charlotte Savoy and Christina Murphy in Austin. And she's in the #1, like the first market center ever in Austin. And So everyone was going deep dive into, it may be a first time homebuyer seminar, yet you may not call it that as a magnet to get the masses to show up. It may be an investment seminar, yet you may not put that sticker title of it. You may call it like, home renos gone wild, or I don't know. I mean, I'm riffing. I wouldn't call it that, but I don't know, you might. But, it might be like, flip this 101, or right. So you kind of name it something that's like a magnetic, title to fill the Zoom room. And what's fascinating now is that with this here vehicle through Zoom, they're having 100% boost in attendance. So all you have to do is drive the activity to push it out, and people actually show up and plug in. So it's very timely to do that right now, to get more people in your web and to also inspire them because the first thing is hire us as your subject matter expert, as your agent.
Well, and the more people that you can get into your web, I mean, one thing that our coach was saying to us is, she's like, you really need like 8 to 12 investors, and you can do 100 deals a year as an agent. So building that web of investors where you're looking at those 100 properties to identify the 10, and then to visit the 10, then identify the 3 that are good deals, and maybe only one works for a certain investor, but you have that roster of the rest of them. You might be one of them. Or Mary Beth and Dana, like you guys were all in a group of investors. So take that deal to other people. So as an agent, there's a huge return on that, because you're getting, you're getting the experience and you're getting paid. But then you look at future opportunities to partner with them, to start doing the deal with the investors, and then starting to slowly build your portfolio. If you're like, I can't buy my deal by myself right now, maybe it's an opportunity to just build the investor pipeline that you need, one, for your business as an agent, but then so that you can then start that way by partnering with them. Might be an easier transition than just being like, oh, found 300 grand, let me go renovate a property.
Well, that's exactly what Mark King was saying today, is that nobody's ever found great deals and not had like buyers to buy them. So if this is an activity that you do and you just are this amazing resource to some investors, why not say to them, I want a percentage of this deal. This is how I do my business. I find these, but you're my select group of VIP investors. I bring it to you first, and I just ask to be included in the deal. And that is Linda McKissick's story. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to ask her to share that when she comes on, because that was, negative 600,000 in debt, and 25, 30 years ago, to net worth of, I don't even know, I don't want to guess. It's definitely over 40 million.
Look, if her profit share was 117,000 a month last year, right?
Ridiculous.
I had to do that math.
It's funny, when you look at somebody like Linda McKissick's story, and I mean, that's very exciting to get her on something like this. But when you look at her story and the success stories kind of overshadow being in debt, that kind of money, like $600,000 is a ridiculous amount of money. But when you realize how easy that is to do in real estate, she's not an anomaly. That's really easy to do.
Yep.
And that's the craziest thing. If you can come out of debt, if you can get out of 600 grand of debt, you can get $1.2 million of investment portfolio real quick, or 2 million or 5 million. I mean, what's the difference? It's all there for you to get.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Let's get it.
People stall. They stall themselves. They're like, well, I don't know if I can, I don't know if it's for me, or I don't. That's.
Well, I guess we have to go back to Dana's, right? It's not a priority of mine right now.
Yeah. Or it makes me uncomfortable.
Yeah. And I guess then you have to walk somebody through the pain of, when you look back 5 years, 5 years ahead, and you look back, how uncomfortable are you when you realize what that could have brought,
That's usually my job, because it's usually a lot of people buy things in pairs. Humans are in pairs a lot of times. So it's usually one of the pair that is not on board. I hate to say this, but a lot of times it's the women. It's so frustrating. Like, we've had a few instances where it's been the man, and Kirk.
They're nervous. They're nervous.
Yeah, where they're just not on board. And so we have to walk them through that pain versus pleasure like cycle of investing. And you once you start talking about future generations, us as like parents, we're like, yes, gotta set my kids up, so that's usually the pain point is trying to just figure out what are they afraid of, or what are they nervous about, and walking them through that. But trying to get more women on board with investing. So having Linda on here, I think, is going to be huge for that.
What is your next investment? Are we just focusing on the house right now and then going into more, or where are we at? Woobs.
We are under contract on 2 hold properties right now.
Single family, multi?
One is a single family that we're converting to a 2.
Okay. Oh, that's the one that was in the zoning okay.
Yep. So that one, and then we have a commercial mixed use building.
Okay.
Nice.
In Bloomingdale.
All in the same area?
Dana's like, oh, more doors, good.
Yeah, yeah. The mixed use one. It's actually one of our first listings that we ever put up. And I told Kurt when we listed it, I was like, we need to buy this. We need to buy this. And he's like, well, we're gonna try and sell it. It was under contract, it was a mess. And now here we are buying it 3 years later.
That's awesome. Is it fully rented?
Almost. I don't really want it to be. We want to update some of the units, but yeah, I mean,
all
it's
under rent.
Okay.
It's inhabited.
Mm-hmm.
That's good.
So, if you don't mind us asking price tag and what the rent roll is, just to understand your decision making.
Off the top of my head, price tag is 500. That's what we're used to see on. And rent roll is going to be low 8,000s per month when we close.
Great.
Okay.
Shortly after we close.
We're putting out $0 because we did a 25% seller hold, and then we're mortgaging 75%.
Okay.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love other people's money.
How many years do you have to get out of that with him?
3.
3? Yeah.
Okay.
You could do other things with your money.
Yep. It's a win. And then as soon as we renovate that, and there's a bonus unit actually that we're going to get permitted and added. So we're actually going to add a unit to the property as well, which they've already said we can do. And the ARV on that is going to be really high, which is great. So we'll be able to refi that and be in good shape.
Megan's a little numbers nerd over here.
Someone's got to do it.
I love it. I love being a numbers nerd.
You guys are both numbers nerds.
I know. I love it. And Dina, what do you think's next for you?
I have to say that I had a deal fall through on me, and it was right before COVID hit, and I was really upset about it. And then after post-COVID, I was actually okay with not owning 1 billion units under one roof for that building. I was kind of okay with that. So look, everything happens for a reason. I think moving forward, I'm looking to invest around my strength set and what, we are really focused on. So although I do love the multiple units under one roof, like I'm getting real warm and fuzzy about 4 units and under right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? So it's like the market of the moment, and looking more burbs versus, city versus north of where we are in central New Jersey. So that's what's attractive to me. Still train towns, wherever there is a train, because this too shall pass, and we're certainly in it for the long haul. So although it's the market of the moment, and I see a lot of other investors grappling with this, is, well, when? Right? And looking at unemployment numbers and looking at the drivers that affect real estate, I'm definitely gravitating to a smaller number of units than I was so lofty earlier this year.
So interesting how things happen, right?
It's really interesting. Do you guys listen to Linda McKissick's podcast, Everything Life and Real Estate? You should.
I do.
It's
I
amazing.
don't know which one though.
She did one with her and Jimmy on it, and Dana Gentry actually interviewed them. And she was saying they were saying that during COVID, it was less than 10% of their renters had a problem paying the rent. And I know that's true for us. And we've been checking in with a lot of our investors, and we've really not had that much. Like, I guess we were expecting a severe impact on our rentals and us having to work with our tenants and all that. Because of course we've been reaching out to them weekly, just like, where are we? Are you good? Do you need something? You know, that kind of a thing, just because good tenants are hard to find. And when you find them, you need to keep them. But I do think, looking back on COVID, like, we've just been really blessed and very thankful that we haven't had a huge like decline in our rental, like in our rental income, because our tenants are actually much more stable than I guess the unemployment rates would basically tell you. Yeah. So I think that's something we're walking our investors through right now too, is they're just like, post-COVID, like, how does this impact future if this happens again? So I think that's important to note too, that we haven't seen in our circles. I'm sure there are other, you know, people that have had a severe impact.
Oh yeah, I have a tenant who didn't pay for 3 months and now just started paying in June.
I mean, yeah. At least they're paying now.
Listen, I feel for the situation, and you know, it was a unique situation because the tenant was a buyer and had 6 figures in the bank. But then when the guidelines came out for COVID that you could use security, right, and versus the rent, he was like, "Oh yeah, I'm about that." I'm like, "Wait, didn't you just show a bank statement to buy the place?" So fascinating. You know, didn't 5 minutes ago you just had 6 figures in the bank, but now COVID and okay. Yeah. So, you know, I think people have honest needs and they should use these COVID guidelines as a tenant. And then I think some tenants are, you know, kind of riding that train a little bit.
Yeah.
In my experience.
Yeah. I think, you know, and I think you can mitigate some of that, like you try to, at least, by having those conversations. And like I said, a good tenant is hard to come by. And when you get them, we try to keep them. We try to keep them for life, as far as like friends in our circle, that kind of a thing, because if you have that communication with them. I mean, I know when we were living in New York City, communication with our landlord was non-existent. You know, he owned 7 buildings and he wanted nothing to do with us. You know, we try not to do that. So I think that's a whole nother topic we can talk about, is kind of landlord-tenant relationship.
Yeah, we should do that one.
Foster that.
Mm-hmm. And the rights of each, and because a lot of people do get afraid to get into it, because even my cousin said, I don't want to deal with tenants, and then they don't get out, and I go, Tom, well, how often does that happen? You just got to be really selective on who you put in your house. You have the right to choose who you want in there. So that's when you make the money, is when you buy it, and that's when you get the great tenant, is when you choose them in the beginning. Yeah. To that point is Dana's correct. I'm also staying by the train stations, and also Park Amboy's just got so much growth going on, and I'm really noticing these houses coming up. I went to show a rental, not a rental, it's a building that has tons of rentals, but on the water. Their neighboring buildings are 350, 280, even 4 something, and this one building is under 2. So I'm strongly considering, there's a 2-bedroom in there for $199, and see what happens if she gets any offers this week. But I'm strongly considering putting like a lowball offer on that, only because the neighbor is already up 100,000 in like 5 years, and at $199, it's literally 1 block from the water and everything that's happening. So I'm like, if it's not that, then I'm gonna start looking into 2 families, because I also hate to give that HOA. It's $366 a month. You know, that's a lot of money a year for an HOA that you might not spend on. You know, you're not getting all the value of windows and roof, and they're doing something every year that's a different story to increase your value, but they're not. So anyway. That's my story. Good. Matt, I think we're about past the half hour.
I think we're good. This was a lot of great information today. We covered really a ton of different aspects of wealth building. Next Friday, I believe, is 4th of July weekend, so we won't have a call next week. But we'll definitely see you guys 2 weeks from now. I'm loving these calls.
Awesome.
All right. Have a good rest of your day. Have a good weekend.
Sounds good.
You too.
Bye.